Gormagat, Concurla, and I welcome the opportunity to speak on this piece of legislation. I suppose the first question we have to, or the first thing that, if you listen to the news there in the last few hours, the G7 have said very clearly that, unfortunately for them, because of the situation that is evolving, that they are now making sure about fuel security and that fossil fuels has to be used more. That's the reality. I've said this for the last few years, but people didn't want to listen because of the situation, and that they have to just live with it. And I think a bit of reality has to come into it. Why have we a shortage of power here, or why have we ambers? There's more people working, thankfully, in this country, but there's also there were stations that needed refurbishment. And we also lost Bord na Móna, and we lost Bord na Móna because of EU law, and where the environmentalists went to the courts here and they made sure that they tried to stop it. And unfortunately, no government since has decided to try and repeal any of those laws. That's the reality. No more than the horticulture sector, we're in the same thing. Bord na Móna has been shut down for the last few years, and it's coming home to bite. For the simple reason, while everyone has no problem with offshore wind, no one has a problem with it, but in my opinion, and I hope I'm proved wrong, it's to get everything up and running, we're talking about 2030, between planning and all the different things. And I saw the other day in Killybegs there was an agreement signed or whatever with the fishermen. But when you go through all the different processes that you have to go through, and those probably same environmentalists will be objecting again with the Porcupine Bank off the west of Ireland or whatever, that it will slow the job down. And the wind isn't consistent enough inland, and there's no point, there's days that we don't have it, and we have to up the ante on the gas especially. In relation, I've heard it earlier on, people talking about will it be extra emissions or whatever in this country, and the Minister can correct me if I'm wrong. But my understanding is that energy created for electricity and all that is part of the ETS system. It's part of the European trading system, and it's not counted in your own country. But the one question I would have, Minister, is that there was 1 million tonnes a million carbon credits were given to the ESB when they were burning the peat in the peat stations. And at the time, under the ETS system, the carbon credits were given to the ESB to burn it. They were given free of charge, and they were done the same in other countries. But where are they gone, them 1 million carbon credits? Because they're surely worth 24 or €5 each, and that's 24 or 25 million. Who has them, or where are they gone, is a big question. There's also a reality, and you look at there's a Green government in Germany, and today they had to announce that they're opening the coal mines, as been said earlier on by yourself, that they have to go back to that. There's a huge opportunity as well in energy. We have the likes of anaerobic digesters, nothing being done right around the country. Farmers are crying out to go at it. You have the likes of solar from, there's farm buildings and all of that. And yeah, there's a move starting, but everything is moving so slow that it isn't counteracting. And people are probably worried out there, Minister, especially at the price that the likes of stuff is going. And we will get an interconnector between ourselves and France, but we don't want nuclear anywhere in this country. Everyone nearly jumps up in the air when they hear about it. But we still don't mind taking in the electricity from it. The 450 kilowatts that comes in, that's going to come in from the interconnector I'd say probably, I don't know, is it a year or two's time. In the line of generators, my understanding, and I'm open to correction, or you might let me know, it will be gas, I presume, they're working on. The generators that's coming in, they will be probably on the East Coast because the gas pipeline is mostly there. But what I just can't fathom in Ireland at the moment, we don't want an LNG terminal below in the Chairs area, but we're happy to take it in through a pipe that will come in from UK or wherever they bring it from. It's all right to come through the pipe, but it's not all right that we might create a few jobs down in areas that we require the jobs. And I just cannot fathom the mentality of what we're at, because I think a reality has to be, and whether we like it or whether we don't, or whether people jump up or down or not, is that for the next 30, 40 years, we're going to be relying on gas, definitely. And in my opinion, we'll be relying on a fair amount of diesel as well. And I think that these are things we have to face up to. You know, that the wind doesn't always blow. Yes, if we go offshore, we have a better chance of a constant wind. But the likes of the Atlantic hasn't been tested with offshore with the turbines, because the Atlantic is a ferocious beast when it's blowing at full throttle at night or daytime. It's, you know, one of the seas that is one of the toughest out there. And while it has worked in fairness, off the East Coast, and it's great that it has, I think there's a problem there. The other thing that I think that, you know, there's a lot of people, and this bill, I welcome the part as well, that said there's going to be €75 refund going back to people, and I welcome that. I think we have to, you know, what's good in a bill, I think we should be acknowledging it and welcoming it, and the sooner that happens, the better. I don't think people have a problem because of all the ambers that we have gone through in the last few months, or in the last year, 18 months. I don't think people have a problem to make sure. We have to have energy security, and that's the bottom line. And however we draw that, or however we get it, we have to do it. And like a government has to do it, or DSB has to do it. We have to make sure that we don't let the lights out in a country. Like I see, was it Sri Lanka last night or yesterday? The lights went out in it because they hadn't enough of fuel got in. And we don't want to see situations like that. We want to make sure, two things, Minister, that we have food security, and I worry about the road that, you know, farmers are being brought down at the moment, and we need energy security, because if you haven't them two basics for your people, then you're in serious trouble. And the last part I'm going to talk about is how valuable a sadded turf is this winter to ordinary people out there. I was talking to a fuel merchant yesterday, and the ordinary bag of coal that was €22 last year went to 27, went to 35, went to 42, and it's expected next winter to be €50. Now, for any ordinary person, they can't afford that. And the bit of turf that they cut, or if they rent a plot, that they can get for €600 or €500, till do them the winter. And yeah, people can jump up and down till in its own time, in 10 or 12 years' time, that generation will be moved on to something else. But we need to make sure that those people that are, you know, at the bag, have a look at the bag of coal at 22, that will be 50. And would you blame them for looking at alternatives? They have to, is the bottom line. They need to, is the bottom line. And there won't be enough money to go around for everyone. And those people will do their own initiative and make sure that they need it. And I'm blue in the face hearing about, you know, renewables and all of this, and no one has a problem. Like, this is the one thing that people need to get into their head. No one has a problem with new technology or new stuff coming. But I read an interesting article the day before yesterday. The columnist in one of the papers, where he said 6 years ago, we're going to have cars that will drive themselves, and you can sit in on the side of them and they'll go around the place and you're hunky-dory, everything lovely. He acknowledged yesterday he was wrong, and fair play to him for saying I was wrong. I'm hearing about renewables for the last 10 or 12 years, and yeah, there is some, and yeah, we are able to cater more at the moment. But it's going to be another between, if you look at hydrogen and you look at offshore and you look at the new technologies that's coming to perfect them, in my opinion, we're between 10 and 20 years away from it. And I think we need to, you know, live in the real world, acknowledge that we have to use these other fuels for that length of time anyhow. In my opinion, we'll have to straddle them side by side. But the one thing I will say to you, don't knock off one light and then when you go to the other room that the light won't turn on. In other words, don't go telling someone they cannot use something, and then when they go to look at renewable or whatever, they didn't work. Thank you. I want to let Deputy Connolly talk.